Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Fireside Chat. This is the very first in a series of In Defense of Animals Fireside Chats, where we get to know the campaigners a little bit better. So my name's Lisa Levinson. I'm the campaigns director for In Defense of Animals, and it's really my pleasure to have this opportunity to introduce you to one of our very special campaigners who's got a lot of right off the just new launching of some incredible media-worthy news for everybody today. So, as I said, my name's Lisa Levinson. I'm here with a few other of my colleagues from In Defense of Animals. So I'd like to take a moment and introduce you first to Bob Price, who is our development director. So Bob, if you want to open your video just for a moment, wave hello to everyone.
This is me. Hi, I'm Bob.
Hi, Bob. Thank you so much. And also, I'd like to introduce Mary Essensey, also in our development team. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mary. And then today, we're going to be featuring another very important IDA consultant, who is Courtney Scott, and she is here with us too. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Lisa. Welcome, everyone.
Yes, it's really a pleasure to have you all here. And what we've got in store for you today is we will be doing a short presentation. You'll see some slides, and Courtney's going to lead us through that in just a moment. There will be some videos as well. And then we're going to proceed into some questions. And there are ways for you to contribute your questions. In one of the ways is by using the raise hands feature, which is under the reactions tab. If you click on that, then you'll see a raise hands, and that will be a place to do that a little bit later in the program. And of course, you can always ask your questions in the chat box. So there's lots of different ways. And one of the reasons we're here today is because we want to hear from you. So we really welcome all of your questions and are so excited to share a little bit more about our elephant campaign and the 10 Worst Zoos, which is what we recently launched. But I'll let Courtney tell you all about that. So if you'll have patience for just a moment, we're going to get our little slideshow going. And I'll make sure we've got Courtney in view for everyone too. Let's see. Let me go ahead and first do that. Couple moments for getting this set up properly. All right, so hopefully everybody is seeing the slideshow here. And that's wonderful. And also hopefully everybody is seeing Courtney. If not, please let me know and we'll do our best to make sure that she's the one in view.
So I'll just start here. I'll let everyone know a little bit about my background. I started 13 years ago by founding an organization called Free the Oregon Zoo Elephants, which is a nonprofit. And during all those years, I was fortunate enough to work with In Defense of Animals elephant team in helping to bring awareness to the plight of the elephants at the Oregon Zoo. And then I think it's been about a year and a half ago, IDA, I was asked to join IDA as their elephant consultant and worked on my first 10 Worst Zoos for Elephants last year. And this year, I'm the project manager for that project. And as you know, we just launched that on January 24th. So we're brand new and we're just getting the word out to as many people and media as we can. Next slide. So this is a little bit about our mission for 10 Worst Zoos. And it serves to bring awareness about the plight of the animals and the lack of space, the unsuitable conditions, and just really how inadequate the whole situation is for the Earth's largest land mammals. Next slide. So this year, our overall theme is the big lie of bigger elephant exhibits. And we relied on the study by Dr. Keith Lindsay and Dr. Rob Atkinson, which really provided the background and the science behind the reasons why elephant exhibits are so inadequate and can never, ever fulfill the needs of an elephant. And as I don't know if you can read this quote, but elephants evolved to live in spaces 1,000 to 1,000,000 times bigger than even a large zoo enclosure of 10 hectares, which is about 24 acres. And frankly, there is no zoo in the US that has even close to that. So next slide. So our #1 worst zoo this year is the Oregon Zoo. The Oregon Zoo has been on the 10 worst zoo list 12 times. And this is the first time it ranked as #1. And the reason we chose it as #1 was due to what we discovered in the zoo's medical records. This problem, which is aggression to other elephants in this zoo, is one of the reasons why space is so important. In fact, everything that elephants experience, every deprivation, disease, and condition that they experience in zoos is all directly or indirectly connected to the fact that they don't have enough space to exhibit their natural behaviors as elephants. So in this zoo, the records revealed to us that this elephant you're seeing here, Chindra, who is a lone Borneo pygmy elephant at the zoo, is now experiencing aggression and bullying by one of the other, or perhaps two of the other elephants. One of the elephants has been apparently pushing her against the feeders, and she has persistent abrasion above her eye, which you may be able to see in this photograph. So it's kind of a mystery to us why the zoo is allowing this to continue, because it's been going on for quite a while now. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So this gives you an idea of the space at the Oregon Zoo. This is what they call the South Meadow. And as you can see, all the trees and landscaping is on the outside of this sand lot. The two elephants at the end there are Samudra and Samson, who are kept separated from each other because, as you may know, male elephants can be aggressive to each other. So this gives you an overview of pretty much every zoo in terms of their habitat. They throw in a log or a tire, as you can see here, and call that enrichment. But it fails to provide any real enrichment for elephants. Next slide, please, Lisa. This is an example. This is Samudra. Samudra is about 13. And at this point, he's the youngest elephant there at the zoo. And they're showing this is what they do to entertain the visitors. Samudra is basically doing a little bit of a trick here to get fed his bananas. And of course, he's willing to do that because they don't often get bananas. So that's a big treat for Samudra. Sorry if my video starts shaking here. Going to try to resolve that if I can. Hold on one second. Security. Oh, it's stabilized again. Okay, so next slide, Lisa. This is what's called the South Meadow. And as you can see, it doesn't resemble anything like a meadow. On the outside, beyond those electric fences, are the trees. And what you often see in zoos is elephants hugging those fence lines. Because sometimes what they'll do is kind of push their trunk underneath the fence to try to get to some of that foliage. And this is no doubt what she's doing here. But once again, you can see how little, stimulation there is in that barren exhibit. And it's about 3.5 acres total of the outdoor exhibit. Next slide, please. So we're moving on to the number 2 zoo here, and this is the Kansas City Zoo in Missouri. And the reason we chose this zoo is they have on their website a breeding plan to breed older African elephants. And they're participating in this with Sedgwick County Zoo, Indianapolis, and perhaps Henry Dorley. Those zoos got elephants from what's called the Swaziland Stolen 18, which you may know about. So these African elephants were actually taken in the middle of the night clandestinely from Swaziland to populate these 3 zoos. So we're calling the zoo out for whatever their participation in this plan, because they realize breeding older elephants in zoos who've never had a pregnancy before is a dangerous proposition. It can often end in stillbirths or miscarriages, and even normal birth is fraught with problems with birth in zoos. So many die young or at birth. And as you can see from this photo, this is another example of an elephant standing near the fence line for a great deal of the day. So that's Kansas City. Next slide, please, Lisa. Okay, so this is the Henry Dorley Zoo. And this is another zoo that has these African elephants living in these tiny enclosures, which, as you know, in Africa, they have access to a savanna, right? Which is just replete with all kinds of, foliage, all kinds of grasses and roots and shoots that they, forage on, which is a major part of their day and a major part of the stimulation that keeps their bodies and their minds healthy and active. So let's see, the Henry Dorley exhibit it's actually not completed yet. It's going to be completed later, I believe. And they have 5 acres, indoors and out. That includes the indoor area. So compare that to the 2.6 million acres they would have in the wild. So they have 5 elephants, and they were born in the wild in Swaziland, separated from their families, and as I said, sent to these 3 zoos. So the breeding is a problem for them. They, like I said, they often end in miscarriage and death. And we're very concerned for the captive elephants, Lolly and Kiki, and their unborn babies. So we'll have to see what happens when those babies are born. And as you may know, elephant gestation period is 2 years. So like all the zoos, we call on them to end the breeding, close this exhibit, and send their elephants to sanctuaries. So next slide, please. Oh, and this is, I'm sorry, this is just another photo of the Henry Dorley exhibit. And you can just see from this photo how barren it is. And all the foliage, once again, is on the outside of the fencing. Next slide, please. So this is a Houston Zoo. And we chose the Houston Zoo because, first of all, it has 13 elephants in 3.5 acres. So 3.5 acres is not even enough for 1 elephant. And by the way, all the zoos we chose were because within recent years, they've expanded their zoo exhibit, claiming that this is going to make a big difference for the elephants. So we want to really highlight this issue because, as I say, everything stems from it. And it's really hard for zoos and for the public to really thoroughly understand how big a problem it is, lack of space. So we really felt it's time to really bring that to the surface and expose it for what it is. So this little baby elephant here is once again trying to get outside of her exhibit and see what's out there and reach the grass beyond it. Next slide, please. This is a video if you want to try and play that, Lisa.
Will do. Fingers crossed.
Yep. All right, so this video is a quick view of the stereotypical behavior that you see in zoos. And in this zoo, there was extreme stereotypical behavior. We saw it everywhere on the exhibit. So if you guys are having trouble at all with this video, let us know. We can stop it. But now you see this elephant reaching outside to get some grass. So that's another. And there's another elephant exhibiting stereotypical behavior on the other side of the exhibit. So that's good. So if you can get back to the next slide, Lisa.
Yes, I will do that.
All right. So the next zoo is the Fort Worth Zoo. And this is another zoo who claimed to have this bigger space, which is about 3 acres. And they have, let's see. Well, what we're showing here is how little this does for these elephants. There's a new baby at the zoo. And, you know, normally a new baby does provide enrichment for elephants, not just to the mother, but to the aunties. The other elephants serve as aunties. But in this zoo, even with a new baby, you'll see in our video, the elephant is still, you know, doing severe stereotypical behavior. And we saw in the back lot too, they have a separated yard here. And in the back lot, the other elephant was circling continually. So this is just another example of how this space is not even close to enough to provide the kind of, you know, life that they need. You don't see elephants in the wild pacing or bobbing or walking in circles. You know, this is only zoos and circuses. So let's see, I think we have a video for this one as well. The next slide, sorry, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, so if you can try and play that one for us. So once again, you can see the stereotypical behavior and how she's hugging the fence line. And notice how her friend comes over. And it looks to me like the friend is kind of trying to communicate with her and kind of snap her out of it perhaps, but it doesn't do any good. So like I say, no matter what goes on in that space, they're kind of stuck in that stereotypical behavior. And just so you know, oh, thank you, Lisa. And the next slide, please. And just so you know, even when elephants do go to sanctuary, sometimes it can take a while for them to snap out of that stereo behavior. So that's a slide, there we go. So number 6, worst zoo is Indianapolis. And this zoo is just another example of how little space does to improve the lives of the elephants. This zoo has what's called a presentation area, display area, and that's where this elephant is right now. It's a small area separate from the rest of the exhibit, and they bring the elephant over to allow the public to get a better view. And they also offer things like bathing of the elephants. You can pay to do that. I'm forgetting, it's quite a steep price, but that's one of the visitor entertainment options, is bathing the elephants. So they have this new exhibit is called Timbo Camp. It opened in 2020. And we don't know exactly how big it is because the zoo did not release that information, but it's probably not more than 3 acres. It does, like I say, it forces them into close contact with visitors. They're entertained with watching their trained behavior and getting to bathe them. And just, this is once again, there's no varied terrain, there's no different substrates, and often the sand will get packed down. So that will create problems for the elephant's feet. They'll have, cracked nails. Just from standing all day on a hard surface, that goes up through their body and actually, causes arthritis and joint disease. So, I mean, just about every elephant in zoos has some form of zoo-related condition like arthritis or foot disease. And sometimes TB, and awful the young elephants have herpes, the elephant herpes virus, which is fatal. So let's see, let's go to the next slide. So this is Zoo Atlanta. And we're calling Zoo Atlanta out because their taxpayer dollars are helping to fund this kind of suffering. They call their exhibit the Grand New View. However, as you can see, once again, this elephant is not getting much of a view inside the exhibit, right? She's getting a view by trying to look outside the exhibit, outside of her very confined space. They have once again not let us know exactly what the space is, but the original space was 1.5 acres. Well, actually what they have is 4.6 acres, but they share it with a multitude of other species. So that's why we don't know exactly how much the elephants have for themselves. But what they do have in that zoo, what they added, is a ballroom, a banquet hall, and other areas for the zoo visitors. So a lot of effort was put into helping the visitors have a better time at the zoo. So they're not clear on whether they're breeding or not, but these zoos are all part of the AZA zoo, species protection plan. So they're all encouraged when they do have the elephants to breed them. And so that is no doubt what's in place for Atlanta. In fact, they've said that that is something they'd like to do. Next zoo, please. I'm sorry, next slide, please, Lisa. Okay, so this is the Tulsa Zoo. And the Tulsa Zoo is the largest expansion of all of them. It's 10 acres for the elephants. However, as you saw from, excuse me, the first slide, when we said that according to Dr. Keith Lindsay, the largest zoo, which I suppose is in the UK, which has 10 hectares, which is 24 acres, even that is not enough space for an elephant. So you can see 10 acres is nowhere near enough. And this zoo, yeah, so that's the reason we put them on here. And it's a miniature amount of space. I'm sorry if I'm taking a little time here. I was just trying to get to exactly well, let me just get back to this. To walk across a 2.47 acre exhibit, it takes an elephant 1 minute. That's from the study. So you can see that that's never going to be enough space for this elephant. And these animals they're planning to breed them. So anyway, we're going to go to the next slide and show you a video. So Lisa, if you could play that video.
There's two of them. There's two of them. You're so good. Thank you. There's two of them.
Okay, here we go again. For that. Okay, thank you. So that was the Tulsa Zoo. Now you can go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is the Sedgwick County Zoo in Wichita, Kansas. And their plan is to squeeze in even more wild elephants. These are African elephants again. and they're participating in that Kansas City breeding program, which I mentioned. Now, the one thing that's going to halt or hold up their breeding plans to bring in more wild elephants is CITES, which is a Convention on International Trade on Flora and Fauna, has just put a temporary moratorium on importing more elephants from Africa. So fortunately, this will at least put a pause in their plan to bring in more wild elephants to the Sedgwick County Zoo. But you can see from this photo that it's a barren, once again, very barren, boring, small exhibit. And there's very little to do. And, you know, this is what they do all day, is kind of stand around. The outdoor area before was only 1/4 of an acre. And so they enlarged the space to 4.8 acres. But of course, that's totally inadequate. And they have 8 African elephants in this space. And as you can see, the exhibit area is completely empty of any vegetation. So once again, a stark contrast to where they actually experienced life in the savannah, because they came from Africa. So the same year, by the way, that it expanded its elephant exhibit, it imported 6 new African elephants to augment the population of 1. Stephanie was captured in South Africa and shipped to the States in 1972 when she was just 1 year old, along with Cinda, who died in 2014. The 6 new elephants, like I say, are part of the Stolen 18. So this is just, you know, the comparison between this and Africa is very stark, as you can see. So next slide, please. Okay, so number 10 zoo. This is the second time the Cincinnati Zoo has been on our list. And this zoo is going to be expanding to 5 acres. It's 1 acre now. I believe they have 4 elephants. And they're planning to bring in more elephants. I believe the last time I checked into this, they're bringing them from a zoo in Ireland. And their goal is to expand their elephant, what they call a herd, but of course it's not a herd. A herd is a matriarchal family, right? But what they call a herd, they want to expand it to 12 elephants eventually in 5 acres. So last year, our investigator who went to the zoo recorded a video of the elephants exhibiting severe aggressive behavior. And this is yet another, you know, result of being confined to a small space. So that's the whole story here. And I believe their exhibit is $50 million. And it'll be completed, I believe, by next year. So let's go to the next slide, please. Okay. I think we might have missed a slide, Lisa. Can you go back one? Or unless I got them out of order. Oh, I guess I got them out of order. Sorry. Go to the next one. So this is a dishonorable mention. This is Milwaukee Zoo. And they've been on our list a few times. And we point out, you know, their small exhibit. This was increased to, actually their entire new exhibit is 1.6 acres. And that was increased in 2019. And they're just, you know, bragging about it being such a bigger exhibition space for them, which is, you know, pretty pathetic. And, you know, this is just another example. But one of the things about Milwaukee, though, we want to point out is it's very cold there. Colder even than Portland, Oregon, where the Oregon Zoo is. So these elephants spend a lot of their winter inside. In fact, when our investigator went there was no elephants outdoors at all because it was below 40 degrees. So this is what they do. They spend their time inside, and it's a very even smaller area indoors than it is outdoors. And this, as our heading points out, by not even having the 2.7 acres, the 1.5 acres, it takes them 40 seconds to get across their habitat. So let's go to the next slide. All right, this is the Hall of Shame. Now, Fresno Chaffee Zoo was on our list last year for the first time. And this zoo has transported elephants back and forth to this zoo for breeding. They just imported a new elephant, a new male elephant into the zoo in order to breed. And we highlight that issue on our website. It's called Transport Trauma, because you're breaking up elephant, relationships, whether it's family or friends. They do have some bonds that they make in these zoos. So by just shipping them around from one zoo to another, you're breaking up the little bit of companionship that they have in the zoo. And this zoo, like many, many others, has electrified fences. And I believe there's a slide, another slide that shows that. Lisa, if you can go to the next slide. Yeah, here you can see these trees are wrapped in wires. So the elephants, which of course, love to get on trees and knock down the branches. It's a huge part of their day to forage and to knock down branches from trees. And zoos will sometimes throw in a few branches of sticks and so forth, but it's nothing like, having access to trees. So, and also just so you know, this zoo is going through a lawsuit, which was put together by the Non-Human Rights Project. They are currently, I believe, going through that in court right now. And their whole purpose of that is to show that these elephants should have some autonomy and some choice in their life, and they should be sent to sanctuary. So I think if you want to go, I think that's the end of our slides. Go to the next slide. Oh, right. This is the end of our slides here. So I'm so grateful to you all for joining us today. And if you have any questions, please ask. I'm here to answer.
Well, thank you so much, Courtney, for telling us all about the 10 Worst Zoos, which actually launched just last week, I believe. It went out into the media. So this is something that we do each year at this time. And everyone who's joined us today has had that opportunity to get the details about that from Courtney, who's worked months, many, many months on this project. And so thank you so much, Courtney, for doing that. I think now there may be people who have questions. And so what we'll do is invite people who have their hands raised. And the way you can raise your hand is on one of the control bars that you have in the Zoom. There's a feature for self-expression. And if you click on that, that's where you'll find the raise hands link. We have a couple people. So if you'd like to, you're welcome to, I'll ask you to unmute and you're welcome to tell us your question. So this question is for Debbie. If you'd like to ask us, you're welcome to.
Hi, thank you very much for having this fireside chat. And thank you to Courtney. I'm actually joining in from Canada. And here in Edmonton, you're probably which is much colder than Milwaukee. You're probably aware of Lucy the elephant. An activist had been campaigning to have her moved to a sanctuary. And I understand that Dr. Jane Goodall said that she was not fit for travel. Do you know of anything about that?
Yes, I do. It's unfortunate, but that doesn't mean that we and all the advocates in Edmonton aren't going forward. Right now, as you may know, the zoo director has stated that the exams by an independent vet have been done. And it's just what we're waiting for now is for him to release the results of those exams to the public. And we sent out an alert and asked our supporters to write to Mr. Dewars. And he has responded to everyone, but he has still not released those results. So that's where things stand right now. Yes, it's true about Jane Goodall, unfortunately. She also had the same statement to make about several other zoo elephants. I don't want to even, go into why she might be doing that or speculate on that. But on the other hand, as you may know, Debbie, there is a Jane Goodall Act now going through the Parliament in Canada. So if that passes, zoos will be forbidden in the future to have any more wild elephants or tigers, or I believe gorillas. There's a whole list of wild animals that will no longer be held in Canadian zoos if that bill passes.
And the exciting thing about the Jane Goodall Act, as long as the wording stays the same, I think it opens it up for other animals in the future. So you bet I'm on my MP's case about that one.
Yes, we're so hopeful for that because first of all, it will help to set a precedent beyond Canada that all of us can use to put pressure on our local zoos and governments. So we're wishing you up there in Canada all the best with that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it'll be great because we are actually notorious for having some of the worst animal protection laws in the developed world. So it'd be nice to see, us moving forward. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thanks so much. Fern, looks like you've got your hand raised. If you'd like to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Oh, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure it will pass. I'm sure.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, I can't say definitely, but I'm very, very positive about it. Of course, I won't do anything for Lucy and the animals that are here that are in
Right.
zoo now. And I certainly believe that Lucy can and should be moved. It's so frustrating because we have the information about the elephants and we know, I mean, just listening to this again is just so heartbreaking. We know how they suffer, but the zoos have done an excellent job of pulling the wool over the, over the eyes of the public, where they have this kind of Disneyland ambiance. How are we going to fight this? How are we going to, the information is out, it's available, and somehow it's not getting to the public about how cruel and wrong this is. And my frustration is, how are we going to counter this?
That is the $1 million question. In fact, I would say that's the $1 billion question. That's something that I've been working on, that IDA has been working on, and I'm working on it with IDA now. And I can only say there have been some successes. So we have to keep our eye on that and keep focused on that future with all these bills, the Jane Goodall bill. I believe there's pressure in the UK through Born Free, as you may know about, Fern, to try to get their elephants out of their zoos, to stop the confining of elephants there. So these studies that are coming out on the Born Free, the Keith Lindsay, the brain damage study, all of these studies are helping, but it's a long haul. I know you're very familiar with the Non-Human Rights Project, and think of how long a haul they have. Right?
Yeah, I mean, the frustrating thing, and I hope my documentary is going to help. I certainly, that's why I'm doing it, and it will incorporate all this information. My frustration is, there's been so much media. I mean, in terms of Happy, the media covered the case of Happy, and the Swaziland 18, that was well covered in the New York Times. Right. And yet, it doesn't feel, I don't mean to be pessimistic, but it doesn't feel like it's getting to the public's awareness. And that's what I'm so frustrated about. How are we going to counter, the propaganda that the zoo has enacted out to the public? That's just, that's just so frustrating.
I feel it the same as you do. One thing that just came to mind, Fern, is I'm sure you know about the film Blackfish. That film did help make a difference.
Yes.
Now, part of the reason for that, I'm sure you know, is CNN produced that film. So it was seen across the CNN platform and in the, much wider audience, and it's harder. And I know you as an independent filmmaker would maybe have the same reach. But if there's any way you know, and of course, you know, we'll help promote your film, but if there's any
know.
way you can get to a larger platform like that, I don't know if you have already done that or not.
Well, we're gonna try, I promise you.
I know
We're
you
gonna
are.
Try, I mean,
I
it's
know
up
you
to,
are.
It's up to CNN.
Yes.
But we are definitely, I think this, sorry, I don't mean to take everybody's time.
That's all
You
right.
know, I think this is one of the few documentaries, I think, that is just focused on elephants and zoos.
Mhm.
And we're gonna give it to CNN, like, just take it.
Good.
Don't pay us, we don't care. Because we desperately want that platform.
You know, one thing we could do, we could maybe help you with, Fern, is when your film is ready, we could put a pressure campaign through our supporters to contact CNN and try to get it aired on CNN. We'll do everything we can, because as you can see, that was one success, is getting it out to that many people. SeaWorld was forced to stop with their orca program.
Okay, we'll have it.
Oh,
We'll have
fingers
it ready
crossed.
for you. Fingers crossed, we'll have it ready for you by the fall.
Yay, I'm excited.
Yes.
And I wish I had another
Everybody's
answer.
to use, and it's everybody's to use in whatever way they can.
Thank you for the question, Fern.
Thank you.
We can all do our parts by protesting as well.
I'm sorry, Miriam, is that you talking?
Hi, yes, I'm sorry. This is Miriam Shiro from Denver, Colorado.
Oh, hi, Miriam.
Hi. Yeah, we could, I just wanted to add that we could all do our parts as well. Like protesting the zoo. So I used to do this every year, but then when the pandemic came, you know, that stopped that. And then, but I think that they're starting it back up again. The zoo protest is usually done in the summertime, mostly here in Colorado. So we can have signs and stuff. Can we have, do you have idea signs?
Yes, we do. And we'd be happy to send them to you. So I want you, we're going to put my email in the chat. Feel free
Okay.
to email me at any time. And whenever you want to do a demo, we'll do our best to help you with that. We can co-host it with you, and we can send you signs, okay?
Yes. Oh, that is awesome. I love it.
Oh, well, we're happy to help. We're grateful that you're there to do it.
Yes, I'm all for it. Animals in the zoo, since I was a little girl, it always hurt me. My mom, my sisters, and my father, they couldn't understand why I cry, and I always ended up with a migraine headache when I was just a little girl. And they was wondering why I cry looking at the animals, and I told them they don't look happy. They don't look happy. They're crying. That's what I used to see that.
Yeah.
So all my years, you know, I always felt sorry for them, and like, you know, I don't know what else to do. So when I found out that they were protesting the zoo, I said yes, and I started protesting with them, and I never stopped until this happened with the pandemic. But when it starts back up in the summertime, yeah, I'm gonna email you and try to get some more information from you and get some signs so we can protest and see if you can co-host with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in and for your question, Miriam.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you.
And we do have a question that Mary brought to our attention, which is Dr. E asked why the Phoenix Zoo was taken off the worst zoos list.
Well, I wasn't aware the Phoenix Zoo had an expansion recently. Have they? The reason we focused on the zoos that recently expanded their elephant exhibit. That was our whole point this year. I know Phoenix was on our list last year. They're a terrible zoo. Now they'll be back on again, but we wanted to just make a point about how these elephant expansions, which were anywhere from $10 to $58 million, are fooling the public. You know, and we wanted to try to rip that cloud off of the public's eyes and let them see what's really going on. And no matter how many acres they add, even, the biggest one, 10 acres, is never going to help elephants. So that's why I'm sure Phoenix has plenty. We know Phoenix has plenty of other reasons to be on. I apologize for my Zoom thing here.
That's okay.
It
I
just
have,
does that.
There's a couple of other questions here for you.
Sure.
So,
Go right ahead.
Corbett.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's find out if that answered his question or
Oh,
not.
yes.
Because
For Dr. E?
Dr. E, yeah.
Let's see. Maybe if so, please answer in the chat box or.
See if he has a response to that.
Yeah, not sure, but I think it was a great response. So,
Okay.
Here, let's see. Maybe I'll ask to unmute. This could be Dr. E, I believe so. You're welcome to unmute if you'd like.
Somebody has their hands up. Who's that?
Yeah, I think we've got
L, somebody L?
that is Dr. E.
Oh,
Dr.
okay.
E, you're welcome to unmute yourself if you'd
You
like.
just have to unmute. Dr. E, unmute. Maybe he doesn't hear us.
Possibly.
Well, how could that be though? He would have had to hear the presentation.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll come back to you, Dr. E. Oh, I think he had to come back, or she leave and come back in. Sometimes there's audio issues and we totally understand. That's the world of Zoom.
Okay.
So Dr. E, if you would like to unmute and share, you're welcome to.
Looks like he's unmuted now.
Okay.
Hello, Dr. E.
Hi, first of all, I'm not a he, I'm a she.
Oh, hi. Sorry about
My
that.
apologies.
That's okay. Hey, I didn't realize that your list of top 10 zoos for this year was limited to the requirement of some sort of expansion being done to the zoo. So that's why I had asked about Phoenix, because
Oh, I see. Yeah.
that that zoo is atrocious. I'm sure that's why it was on the list as number 4 in 2021.
Right.
And since then, I don't know if you know, but 2 of the 3 elephants there have passed away. And so now there's a 54-year-old elephant there named Indu who is all by herself.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I really want to get her out of there.
Yeah.
I happened a long time ago. I happened to be a nanny, and the family for whom I was a nanny is very good friends with one of the owners of the Phoenix Zoo, because this is a privately owned zoo.
Uh-huh.
And I have been reaching out to that family, and they are going to give me the opportunity to meet with one of the owners of this zoo. And I've got to come up with some really good reasons and data and research, and why Indu needs to be taken away and put into a sanctuary somewhere.
Yes.
So this meeting is going to be incredibly helpful, because so many the brain damage research is absolutely heartbreaking, but it's very compelling. But so many of these videos are, you could have guessed, I mean, not knowing which zoo it was, you would have thought that was Indu based on her behaviors, because Indu she doesn't act like a happy, normal or typical elephant, I mean, she does for one who's in a terrible zoo. She acts just like the other ones.
Right.
So
So are you in Phoenix?
I am. Yep.
So can you go there and get some video of her when she's doing that behavior?
I got a bunch yesterday.
Good. Well, that's your evidence. That's a good
Yeah.
evidence for you to take to the meeting. Put it
Yeah.
on your phone or your laptop and tell them. Now I'm just going to give you a heads up what they will say, what they've said to us in the past, especially like Billy at the LA Zoo. Well, Billy came to the zoo like that.
Oh,
They'll
really?
say, oh, Chindra came to the zoo like that. So, but your response to that could be, well, how come the zoo didn't help her get over it then?
Yeah, right. Why
What
is
was
she still
this
acting like that?
this great environment for her that she's been spending 30
Yeah.
years doing this? Nothing's changed.
Yeah, right.
Just to let you know, they will say that.
Yeah, and one of the other questions I'm sure they're going to ask is, will we get a lot of revenue for having this, having her at the zoo? Well, you know what? Maybe the bad press that I can put out there is going to be
Right.
worse than right. I mean,
Yes, very good for you. And one other thing to counter, the zoos that have closed their elephant exhibits, and there's 33 of them now in North America,
uh-huh.
they're all still open. Okay.
Yeah, they probably have not lost any money, right? Just because they lost an
Detroit-
elephant.
No, the Detroit Zoo posted record profits one year after they closed their elephant exhibit. So that's a specious argument, and you can counter it with facts.
Okay. And do you, on your website, or is there someplace where I can find a list of these 33 zoos that have closed?
Yes, absolutely. You can just go on, and there's a search feature on the website. And you
just type in lost zoos, right?
you
Or
could
closed zoos.
type in, yes,
Okay.
zoos that have closed their elephant exhibits or something like that. And if you have any trouble with it, feel free to email me and I'll send you the direct link.
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay. All right.
Great. Thank you. It was a great presentation, Courtney. Thank
Well,
you so much.
you.
Thank you,
for
Lisa.
joining us.
Oh, glad to do it. Just I ran out of Kleenex, so I had to leave the meeting to go get more tissues to wipe my nose. This is very sad. But thank you for all you do, and maybe someday we'll get to meet as we rescue some elephants.
Yes, I would love to come to Phoenix and see and leave that zoo.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Oh, I'll invite you. If I get to that point, I promise I will invite you personally.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Courtney. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lisa.
May that happen. Hopefully we'll see you there in Phoenix. That's fantastic. So we do have another question or two. And I noticed that, Bob, you might have had your hand up. I don't know if you had something you wanted to share too.
I was just, there was a question in the chat and it was sort of related to Dr. E's, and what they were talking about, sort of germane to the conversation, is the zoos push back with a lie. They have that narrative of the happy elephant and the happy zoo and bring your family. This is good for the kids. And so, what does the zoo say when we point out these glaring deficiencies, lack of space, forage out of reach, clearly, and what do they say to dismiss all of these? And then how would we counter their dismissals?
Well, just to start out with, let me tell you, the zoos have PR departments. And they have a budget for that. And they send out a lot of videos on Facebook and social media showing when the elephants are doing anything fun or cute, right? And so they have this way of reaching the minds of the public that we don't have that kind of budget, right? And so they're doing this night and day. This is just an ongoing PR campaign. Now, how they address the questions is they usually divert by saying the elephants are well cared for. They usually turn it into a personal thing where they're saying we're attacking their keepers, which we're not. I'm sure there are quite a few keepers who care about their elephants. It's not a matter of the keepers, but they will divert you to that. The keepers take good care of their elephants. We provide them everything they need. How can you debate whether an elephant is happy? They'll say they're happy. We'll say, well, their behavior says otherwise. It's kind of a no-win argument with them, because they'll just, like I say, come up with the same responses. And then they also say, and this has happened during this launch, is they'll say the AZA says this is enough space. In fact, we go beyond what the AZA requires, which is true. The AZA, for anyone who doesn't know, requires simply that an elephant have 5,400 square feet of room per elephant outdoors. That is not even a quarter of an acre. So if that is considered enough space by their regulatory body, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, that is going to be their argument. They're fulfilling the demands, the regulations of their industry standards. One of the things I personally would like to see happen is a law just like right now through Congress, there's the TEEPS law to stop the traveling circuses and traveling entertainments, venues. There should be a law against confining elephants in zoos the same way as what's going on in Canada. We should have a federal law that would oversee and overtake all of this. But that's a big project, right? But anyway, that's how they respond, because they have the backing of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Does that answer the question, Bob, or did you have another part of
No,
that?
that's perfect. Thank you.
Thanks to both of you. And we do have another question, and then we will be moving towards wrapping up our discussion today, our chat. So this, one of the questions is from Corbett. And he said, though you didn't say it in so many words, it sounded as if you feel Jane Goodall has not their best interests in mind by saying the elephants are not fit for travel. What might be her motive, should you be right?
Okay, that's, like I say, that goes into the area of speculation, and I kind of hate to do that. But I would just say, if you could look it up yourself, Jane Goodall's foundation, and where she gets money. Okay. And zoos is one of the suppliers of her foundation. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason. I'm only speculating. But this has happened. This is the third time. Edmonton was the third zoo that she kind of nixed the idea of sending the elephant to sanctuary. And it doesn't mean, I just have to say with a caveat there, it doesn't mean I don't respect Jane Goodall and her work, her body of work, because I do. For whatever reason, she has taken this position with elephants being okay in zoos. I don't understand it. But even though her name is being used to get rid of elephants in zoos in Canada. So I don't have a better explanation. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for speculating about that, because it is curious.
Yeah, it is, and it's unfortunate, but it's just something you have to deal with.
There's one other question here. Who runs the AZA?
The Association of Zoos and Aquariums is a member organization. They pay dues. And there's the AZA in the US, that's the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. There's the CAZA, Canadian Association. There's a European Association and the World Association. There's many that span the globe. And they're basically an industry lobbying regulatory group, though all of their regulations are voluntary. However, if the zoos are not in compliance, they can be kicked out. They can lose their accreditation. And the accreditation is important to zoos. It gives them more credibility in the community, with the public, and with the government that often provides tax dollars. Let me see, what else can I say about it? So yeah, it's funded by their member dues, and why their regulations are so inadequate is a good question. But they want to breed elephants, so it's a very big mission statement for them. And so they probably want to keep the regulations from being too harsh. That's my speculation, because they want to continue breeding, even though, as maybe many of you know, they have a very hard time breeding elephants right now. They don't have nearly enough elephants for the zoos, and they can't import them from Africa right now. So they're desperate to get more elephants. And that's why Kansas City has that breeding program. Does that answer the question?
Thank you so much, Courtney, for giving it a
I'm
try.
just keep thinking there's more I could say about that, but I don't want to, spend too much time on it. But like I say, anyone who has more questions, feel free to email me.
And the person who asked that question, Lori Ellis, says she thanks you for the information and says that she disagrees with breeding in captivity.
Oh, yes. So do we. you know, I'm just going to give you a little bit of history about the Oregon Zoo to sum up here. The Oregon Zoo is considered the gold standard for breeding. That's what the AZA says. That's what our government says. That's when I was in LA, the LA Zoo said, oh, how wonderful the Oregon Zoo is, right? The Oregon Zoo, 22 of the 28 births, those elephants are dead now. So how successful is their breeding program? You know, so no, even the zoo that's considered the very best is a very poor history of breeding.
Thank you, Courtney. It looks like Fern, you might have one.
Well, I just have, if I can just leave on a more positive note as well. It seems to me that amongst the younger people, teenagers, 20s, 30s, it's changing. Everyone that I speak to, my daughters are in their 30s and younger, and their friends will never go to zoos. So it's very different than when I was growing up, and then when I had kids and we took them to zoos. Now it seems that younger people recognize and realize how wrong it is, and I'm hearing more and more from them that they will never go to zoos because they see it as prisons for animals. So that's something to hold on to.
That's great. Thank you so much for adding that, Fern. That's a very good positive statement and hopeful for the future.
I hope so.
And they should be going to virtual reality zoos. And just so you know, North Carolina has a virtual reality safari. All the zoos could do that.
Can I just say one more thing? Argentina has closed down all their zoos, and
Right.
should all be taking after them. And they've sent all their elephants to sanctuaries. We will be following the last two elephants in Buenos Aires as they go to sanctuary in Brazil.
Wonderful.
Are they
going to the one in Brazil?
Yes, to Scott's sanctuary. So we should all, never mind Canada, we should all look to them as what the present and future should be.
They're doing a great job.
They are.
Absolutely.
They are.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
That is such a wonderful note to end on, a positive note. And I thank you, Fern, for your great work. We can't wait to see your film. And Courtney, this has been such a wonderful presentation. You got us right into it. I feel like I was front seat at the 10 Worst Zoos launch. So I really want to thank you for giving us that special view and for all of the work that you do at IDA. And likewise, we'd like to thank everyone who tuned in, because you care about elephants and that's why you're here. And we are very grateful to you for your support. And I don't know, Bob, did you want to say anything before we sign off?
No, I didn't have anything to add other than thank you for showing up. This has been our first swing at this, and I thought it went pretty well. I hope to do it again, and look forward to the next one.
Wonderful. Well, that leaves me with a little announcement about our next one. And I put in the chat box, February is right around the corner, and we celebrate Activist Appreciation Month for February. So we have a whole month long of programs to support your activism. So please do check the link. You can find it from our website as well. And we'll be having some webinars, and we're also going to do another one of our fireside chats just to focus on sustainable activism for next month. So we hope that you'll join us, and we thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you all so much, and we hope you have a wonderful evening. We will be recording this. The recording will be live on our YouTube channel. We'll make a special playlist for our fireside chats, and you'll find this first one with Courtney living there soon. Thanks to everyone. Have a wonderful
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. So great to see you. Your wonderful faces.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.